Bento box of brave apologies. In the quiet town of Nara, where the deer roam like gentle ghosts and the morning mist clings to the cedar trees, lived a young girl named Yui. Yui loved many things: the sound of rain on the temple roofs, the way her pencils lined up perfectly in her case, and most of all, lunchtime. To Yui, a bento box wasn't just a meal. It was a treasure chest filled with colorful stories. There were stars made of carrots, clouds made of fluffy white rice, and tiny octopuses made of red sausages. Every morning, the classroom was filled with the rhythmic sound of students sliding their desks together, the air buzzing with the anticipation of delicious things. Yui sat by the window, her own yellow bento resting safely in front of her. The trouble began just before the noon bell rang. Yui had finished her math worksheet early and stood up to sharpen her pencil. As she walked past the desk of her classmate, Hiro, her foot caught on the corner of a chair. She stumbled, her arm swinging out to catch her balance. With a sharp clack, she accidentally swept Hiro's bento box right off his desk. The lid flew open as it hit the floor, and the beautiful meal inside, perfectly rolled tamagoyaki and crisp snap peas, slid across the wooden planks. The room was noisy with laughter from other children, and in that split second, no one seemed to notice the accident. Yui froze, her heart hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. Fear is a cold thing. It told Yui to move quickly. Instead of reaching down to help, she hurriedly nudged the spilled food under the edge of the low bookshelf with her shoe and placed the empty bento box back on Hiro's desk, snapping the lid shut. Her hands shook as she retreated to her seat. She told herself it was okay. She told herself she would tell him later. But as the teacher announced it was time to eat, the air in the room felt different. The sunlight coming through the window didn't seem as bright. Yui looked at her own lunch, but the carrot stars didn't look like treasures anymore. They looked like reminders of the mess she had hidden away. Hiro returned from the hallway, humming a small tune. He was a boy who smiled with his whole face, and he was clearly hungry. When he sat down and opened his blue bento box, his hum stopped abruptly. He stared at the empty container, his brow furrowing in confusion. He looked under his desk and around his chair, his shoulders slumping. He didn't cry, but he grew very quiet, which was much worse. He simply closed the lid and sat with his hands in his lap. Yui watched him from the corner of her eye. Every time Hiro sighed, Yui felt a heavy stone grow in her stomach. The secret was no longer just a secret, it was a weight she had to carry. All afternoon, the weight of the secret grew heavier. It followed Yui to the playground, where she couldn't bring herself to run. It followed her on the walk home, making her backpack feel like it was filled with lead instead of books. She thought about Hiro sitting quietly while everyone else ate. She thought about how a small mistake had turned into a big lie. By the time she reached her front door, the stone in her stomach felt as big as a mountain. She realized that by hiding the truth to protect herself, she had actually made the situation much worse for her friend. The silence between them felt like a wall she had built herself. That evening, Yui sat on the porch with her grandmother, Obasan. The sky was turning a soft violet, and the crickets were beginning their nightly song. Obasan was a wise woman who could read the weather in the clouds and the feelings in a person's heart. She noticed Yui pushing her dinner around her plate. "A heavy heart makes for a light appetite," Obasan said softly. Yui couldn't keep it in any longer. She told Obasan everything: the stumble, the spill, and the empty box. She cried a little, feeling the weight of the secret finally cracking open. Obasan listened patiently, stroking Yui's hair with a hand that smelled of ginger and tea. "A mistake is like a weed, Yui," Obasan whispered. "If you pull it early, the garden stays beautiful. If you let it grow, the roots get deep and tangled. But it is never too late to be brave." She told Yui that an apology is a bridge. "Tomorrow, you must build that bridge." Yui nodded, Feeling a spark of courage, she went to the kitchen and, with her grandmother's help, prepared a special treat. She folded a piece of paper into a small blue origami crane. Inside the wing, she wrote the words she should have said hours ago. She practiced the phrase until it felt steady on her tongue, a soft promise of honesty. The next morning, the classroom was quiet before the first bell. Yui found Hiro at his desk, drawing in his notebook. Her legs felt wobbly, and her heart was drumming again, but this time she didn't run. She walked straight to him and placed the blue origami crane and the small package of treats on his desk. Hiro looked up, surprised. Yui took a deep breath, looked him in the eyes, and said clearly, "Gomen ne, Hiro. Gomen ne. I knocked over your lunch yesterday, and I was too scared to say so. I am so sorry." The Japanese phrase, "Gomen ne," felt like a key turning in a lock, releasing the heavy stone from her heart. Hiro looked at the crane, then at the treats, and finally back at Yui. A slow smile spread across his face. "I was so confused," he admitted. "I thought maybe a ghost had eaten my lunch." He laughed, and the sound broke the tension like a ray of sun hitting ice. He picked up the crane and tucked it into his pocket. "Thank you for telling me, Yui, and thank you for the treats. Would you like to share them?" They sat together, the wall between them gone. Yui realized that while the apology was scary to start, the relief of being honest was much better than the safety of a secret. Their friendship felt even stronger than before. That night, Yui went to bed feeling as light as a dandelion seed. She had learned that being brave doesn't mean never making mistakes. It means having the courage to fix them. She thought about the word "gomen ne" and how powerful 3 small syllables could be. They could mend a hurt, clear a cloud, and turn a mistake into a memory. As she drifted off to sleep, she felt proud of her bento box of brave apologies. Remember, when you make a mistake, don't wait for the roots to grow deep. Just take a breath and say,